All right, let's talk about something we all feel, but maybe don't talk about enough. That nagging, persistent feeling that you're somehow behind in life. Today, we're going to dig into the real science of why so many of us feel like we're constantly running a race we just can't seem to win.
I mean, really think about it. Have you ever had that little voice in your head whispering that you should have accomplished more by now? That everyone else your age is somehow ahead of you? If that sounds familiar, trust me, you are in very, very good company.
And look, this isn't just you being randomly insecure. It's a pretty universal anxiety, and it comes from one specific place. The way we're constantly measuring ourselves against these invisible, unspoken expectations of what our lives are supposed to look like.
At the end of the day, this is just a deeply human thing to do. We are literally wired to look around, to check in on the herd and see how we're doing. We use these societal yardsticks, career, relationships, money, to figure out where we stand. But what happens when we look at that yardstick and feel like we're coming up short?
Okay, so what's the real engine driving this whole feeling? Well, there's a powerful psychological force at play, one that's working in the background of our minds all the time. It's called the comparison trap.
The core of this whole thing is a concept called social comparison theory. And what it basically says is that we humans don't have some kind of internal objective scoreboard for success. Nope. The way we figure out our worth is by looking at everybody else. It turns success into a completely relative game, defined not by how far we've come, but by how we measure up to the people next to us.
But here's the kicker. It's not just any comparison that messes with our heads. It's specifically what psychologists call upward social comparison. That's when we look at people who seem to be winning. The ones getting the promotion, buying the amazing house, going on the dream vacation. That's the moment our own life can suddenly feel, well, inadequate. It's the trigger.
Now, take that internal comparison game, and then let's add a huge dose of external pressure. This stuff creates a massive sense of urgency, making us feel like we're all following these invisible timelines, whether we want to or not.
And that invisible timeline, it actually has a name, the social clock. Just think of it like society's unwritten schedule. It quietly dictates the right time to hit all the big milestones. Finish school, land a career, get married, have kids. It's like this silent metronome that's been ticking in the background of our lives since the day we were born.
And this is often what that clock looks like, right? So when our own personal timeline doesn't sync up perfectly with these beats, our brain can read that as a failure. It actually triggers a real stress response. It makes us feel like we're late, like we've totally missed a critical deadline on the project of our own life.
And this goes way, way deeper than just modern psychology. We're talking biology here, evolution. Our brains are hardwired from an evolutionary standpoint to care deeply about where we rank in our social group, in our tribe. Back in the day, our very survival depended on it.
So, that pang of anxiety you feel when you see a friend announce some huge success? That isn't just you being envious. That's your ancient brain wiring kicking in. When you perceive a drop in your social standing, it can actually feel like a threat. It fires up your brain's fear center, the amygdala, and at the same time, it can shut down the reward centers that make you feel good. That's why someone else's win can literally, physically, feel like your loss.
Okay, so we've got this ancient brain wiring, we've got this intense societal pressure, and now let's pour a giant can of gasoline on that fire, social media. Modern tech has created the absolute perfect storm to supercharge this ancient anxiety like never before. And it gets amplified by this little glitch in our thinking called the availability heuristic. It's basically a mental shortcut. If our brain sees something over and over again, like, say, endless success stories on Instagram, it starts to think that's the norm. Your brain's ancient survival instincts are literally being hijacked by your social feed, tricked into thinking everyone is living this incredible life, just because those are the examples it sees most easily.
And this is the result, isn't it? We end up comparing their greatest hits album to our own raw, behind-the-scenes footage. We see their polished highlight reel, promotions, engagements, perfect vacations, and we stack it right up against our own messy, complicated, totally normal everyday life, with all its chores and ups and downs. And let's be real, that's a comparison you can never, ever win.
So, after all that, the psychology, the biology, the technology, it can all feel pretty bleak. But what if we could just reframe this entire idea? What if there's a completely different way to look at our own journey that just dismantles this whole feeling of being behind?
So the big question is, how do we actually break free from this crazy cycle of comparison and anxiety?
Well, it starts with a really powerful mental shift. I want you to forget the idea of a single racetrack. Let's throw that out. Instead, let's try a new analogy, the multi-story car park. I know it sounds simple, but this one image could completely change your perspective on what progress really means.
Okay, let's break it down. Picture yourself on the first level of this car park. You're feeling a bit stuck, maybe frustrated, and you look up and you see all these other cars parked way up on the 5th floor. But here's what you're not seeing. You're not seeing that maybe they got here hours before you, or maybe they came in through a different entrance on the other side of the building. And, most importantly, maybe they're heading to a completely different place than you are. Their floor has absolutely nothing to do with your journey.
So ultimately, it all comes down to this question. What if you stopped measuring your own progress by someone else's floor number? What if you truly understood that you're not falling behind in some imaginary race, but you are simply on your own path, in your own car, moving at your own pace? What do you think might change if you really, truly believe that?